Good morning, periods 2 and periods 3. Today, you have several things that you need to accomplish before you leave. First of all, I'd like to open up your notebooks and turn to the pages that we made at the end of class on Friday. You should have one page that's titled Materials, First Design, Cost, and Total Cost circled at the bottom. You should have another page titled Building an Igloo, Procedure number 12. And lastly, you should have another page that's titled First Igloo Design number 13. As you begin working on your design for your igloos, where your penguins will go in the cooker, you need to consider several things. I'd like you to start today by discussing these questions in your group. If you are a ray of light, could you get into the igloo somehow and melt the penguin? Can convection currents rise and fall inside your igloo? How is the heat from the black floor going to transfer into your igloo? What are some ways to stop radiation, convection, conduction? What are some design features of your own house that keep heat out in the summertime? Why did you choose that color, whichever color you decide on? Did you do a test on that material, or did another group do a test on that material to make sure it works like you want to? How does one layer of that material compare to two layers? If air is such a good insulator, how can you trap more air? So take a few minutes now and spend some time discussing the answers to these questions before you get to your preliminary design. Mrs. Johnson, you can stop the recording for a moment. Now that you've discussed the answers to those questions, it's time to begin designing your igloo, and by designing it, you need to go to this page, Materials First Design, where you have cost and total cost. Make a list of all the materials that you think you're going to use in your igloo. At the same time, continue on the page where you have First Igloo Design number 13 and sketch out that igloo as you intend it to be built. You can also go back and start adding details to your procedure at any time. So you're kind of working on all three of these pages at the same time. I've left the Igloo Depot in the front of the room so that you can look at materials that are on the cart, but you may not touch them, you may not take them. If at any time during the day you feel like you need to do another material test just to reinforce your ideas for building an igloo, you can get permission from Mrs. Johnson, and one group at a time can go over and do the 2-minute material test on the counter. This should take a long time today. You should not be able to come up with your original design, your initial design, in just a few minutes and say that you're done. You need to listen to everybody's ideas in your group, and then you need to come to a consensus as to which one you're going to start with. Remember, your ultimate goal is to make an igloo that's efficient, where your penguin ice cube will have the least amount of mass loss from before it goes in to the time that it comes out after 30 minutes of cooking. You also want to consider cost, because remember, the consumer wants an igloo that's efficient but doesn't cost a lot of money. So spend a lot of time today planning your materials, adding up your costs, discussing how you will build it from the beginning to the end in very specific steps in your procedure, just as your language arts teachers have been working with you in class on, and making a very rough sketch of your first igloo design. I understand that as you begin building your igloos in the next few classes, things will change. Things won't go together as you expected, or you might use more or less materials once you get to beginning to build. But at least you'll have a basic idea and you'll know where to go on building day, at least to begin with. So good luck and have a good time building. Be cooperative and listen to everybody's ideas. I can't wait to see what you come up with.